Hello, everybody. Um, Shifting gears here once again to make another one of these one-off videos. Um, Doing the gospel readings each day. It looks this week like we've, for quite a jaunt here, anyways. We have shifted gears with our gospel readings from the book of Luke to the book of Mark. Whole lot of Mark the last few days and the coming few days, so I figured I would read the preceding page that from the Orthodox Study Bible that introduces us to the book of Mark. So the author, of course, is Mark the Apostle, also known as John Mark, is widely attested by the ancient church as the author of this gospel. He traveled with Paul and Barnabas and later aided Peter, as noted in 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 13. According to tradition, Mark subsequently used Peter's teaching as his primary source for this gospel, adding to it his personal experience in other church traditions. As for the date, it says that, as with other Gospels, the exact date of writing is uncertain. Because of its connection with Rome and its lack of any clear reference to the destruction of Jerusalem, as noted in chapter 13, verse 2, the Gospel of Mark may be dated shortly before the fall of Jerusalem in AD 70. Many believe this was the first of the four Gospels to be written. Major theme is Jesus Christ as servant and sacrifice. Sub-themes include, number 1, the suffering Messiah. Christ, who acts with power and authority, is nevertheless a suffering Messiah, as noted in chapter 8, verses 27 through 33. One who has come to serve and give his life for many, as noted in chapter 10, verse 45. Jesus is clearly the Son of God, as noted in chapter 1, verse 1, 11, chapter 9, verse 7, and chapter 14, verses 61 and 62, who has power over demons, heals the sick, and forgives sins, as noted in chapter 1, verses 23 through 25, and chapter 2, verses 10 and 11. But he also possesses a full humanity, expressed through the agony of Gethsemane and the suffering on the cross. Number 2 sub-theme is the messianic secret. Mark underscores the fact that Jesus veiled his messianic identity. He commanded demons, the people he healed, and even the disciples to keep silent about his messiahship, as noted in chapter 1, verses 34 and 44, and chapter 8, verse 30, until he himself revealed the mystery before the Sanhedrin, in chapter 14, verse 62. In this gospel, Peter confesses Jesus as, quote, the Christ, in chapter 8, verse 29. Contrast with Matthew chapter 16, verse 16, and John chapter 6, verse 69. Only after the resurrection do his followers recognize him as God, as noted in chapter 16, verse 14. And number 3, discipleship. Though the word disciple never occurs in Mark, Jesus calls his followers to uncompromising and heroic commitment. True disciples take up their crosses and suffer with Jesus, as noted in chapter 8, verse 34 through 38. And it just says, for background, according to some church fathers, Mark is writing for the Christian community of Rome, which either was experiencing the great persecution by Nero beginning in AD 64, or was caught up in the apocalyptic fervor occasioned by the Jewish war. Jerusalem was destroyed in AD 70. Mark tells the story of Jesus so his readers may see their own suffering as a prelude to the glorious second coming of Jesus, and may discern the reward of those who endure to the end. The suffering and the glory are equally real. This was true for Jesus and will be true for all believers. The earliest manuscripts of Mark end abruptly at chapter 16, verse 8. Later manuscripts provide additional material, which would be chapter 16, verses 9 through 20. Included in this and other versions, which the Church recognizes as inspired.